and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Additions to the agenda for this evening? None? All right, then I move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment? Everyone here, I'm assuming just for the presentation. Let's just skip the announcements unless they're.
I just have one short announcement. As the liaison to the fire department at their meeting this week, the officers wanted the board to tell the public as much as possible that they're really looking for volunteers. It's an exciting job, free training, and hope anyone who might be interested in that would contact the fire department because it's a great way to volunteer.
Thank you. And for the village board, we have one piece of business, so I'll move we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I guess I'll turn it over to, Sally and Susan.
Well, just I just had a quick little confusion. You opened up the meeting for both boards? Did we technically open the
I'm
meeting?
not sure that it actually legally matters much.
This I think is just the
Well,
regular meeting of the board, and then we'll go into the joint meeting.
Well, only just, I'm just trying to figure out, we have to take care of one piece of business that I found out for a grant for,
Sure. You want to do that?
and so that's why I'm just trying to
Let's
figure out how to.
clear the
Okay.
dust
So
out.
I wanted
We need
to-
to adjourn.
No, we don't need
No,
to.
no, I just want to also formally open up the town board meeting. Do I have a motion? A second? All in favor? Motion so carried. Jeff, what I'd like to do is after the meeting, because I don't know what it is, Kitty just emailed me, there's just something we have to do for the Historical Preservation Commission, for them to put a grant in for next year's budget, but it has to be done now. But Kitty emailed it around 6 o'clock, and I wasn't around to get it and print it out. So when we get done with all the presentation, I'm just gonna ask the board to stay. Hopefully Kitty will be here by then, and she can explain to us the action we just need to take, okay?
So I guess who's
Come on now.
taking the reins on this one?
Yeah, you want to hand
Okay.
it one to each board member?
If you can pass these around, these are the packets for the board.
And while they're doing that, I'll make a few.
Sally, I don't know, I think they should check the thing because I think that once you reference this.
Well, we'll figure it out if
We'll
it-
figure
that's the
it out.
case, Dave, but I think,
Okay. I'm Sally Rhodes, and I am the
Oh,
deputy.
Well, I don't need that
secretary of the
packet?
village,
Oh, I'm sorry.
And,
back to the public. Did everybody get one? Does everybody at the board get one?
yes,
And
Katie,
Katie, did you get yours?
Kitty's missing,
Okay, so this is for Kitty, this is for me, and this
and
is
one's for Roseanne.
for Rosanna. Okay.
As you know, a year ago, almost a year, there's Kitty.
Hi, we are prompt.
You missed the business and we're ready to go.
Okay, and then I'm on time.
Take off your coat. As you know, the village and town, 3 years ago, applied for a grant to study efficiency, perhaps some form of getting together shared services. And that was approved, and the two boards chose 2 board members from each board, 2 community members, a representative from the college, a representative from the school district. The mayor and supervisor were one of the 2 board members, and so that committee reported out October, and Jerry Benjamin represented the college and he is here this evening, and I do personally want to thank him and recognize him for all the work and support and help that he has given. Thank you, Jerry. And so that committee reported out October 31st, of course. Isn't that a wonderful day to report out? We thought it was rather wonderful, too.
Very
Kitty and I both
appropriate.
served on the committee. And it made recommendations to the joint boards. And on January 16th, the joint boards met and they received and heard the fair weather report, which is a much bigger document than the recommendations that the efficiency committee made from that document. In other words, it had all sorts of numbers, all sorts of everything. From that document, we gleaned down and we made recommendations to the two boards, including a recommendation from Dr. Benjamin that New York State finance law needed to be amended in order for this community to be eligible for the Citizens Empowerment Grant of $1 million, 70% which is to be used to offset taxes, and 30% to be used for other things. And they would be probably transactional costs, because there's going to be transactional costs involved. So it was easier to recommend it, but through the good offices of Dr. Benjamin, the governor's office, John Bonasek, Kevin Cahill, the supervisor, myself, and the mayor, we got it passed, and we got the $1 million. So that was good news. We then proceeded to start, because a lot of people felt that the fair weather report did not necessarily address all the things that people were concerned about, that people thought needed to be addressed, that people thought needed to be looked at a lot harder. And so we came up with study committees, which were to be convened by board members, depending upon which. I had the privilege of convening the finance committee and quickly got out of it to an expert, who I will introduce in a minute. And I have to say, at least for this part, and this part of the study, I mean, obviously finances are a key ingredient to our determination as a community as to what we should do. And I haven't worked so hard, argued so much, and I'm good at argued so much, and we met, as you'll see in the report, and I don't want to, because Dave is going to take over in a second. We met a lot, and we met a lot in small groups, we met a lot as a committee, we fought a lot, we argued a lot. She thought I couldn't argue. She now knows I can. I thought she could argue. I knew that. But we did very well, and we have come out. I believe that this is a unanimous report of the committee. Nothing is in this report that we, the committee, have not agreed to. You will see the charts up there, and now I want to introduce the man of the hour, who really, I am going to read the end of the report, because I think I'm not going to ask our chair to do it, and that is that the committee sincerely thanks our chair, Dave Lent, for his leadership, cost analysis, and his diligence in keeping the committee focused on completing our task. In addition, the chair and committee took on the additional task of analyzing space needs for one government. Again, special thanks to Chris Marks, who is the town's highway superintendent, right back there. Chris, wave so they know who you are. And Blue Twilliger, who is the village's superintendent, for providing the current space information. Without further ado, Dave?
Thank you, Sally, and board members and people that are here tonight, and also those I hope that are watching on television and will be watching on the repeat, so that this, and for their benefit, I am going to read the report tonight, and it's kind of long, but I'm still going to read it. The Joint Town and Village Fiscal Consolidation Committee has met 18 times since July 2012. In addition, there have been many hours of individual research and numerous subcommittee meetings to prepare materials for the full committee's consideration. We were charged to prepare a cost-effective budget for one government, that will meet the needs of one community without reducing current services received and will result in a zero tax increase for all taxpayers and will properly create and assess through benefit assessment districts those services received by some residents. The committee analyzed actual revenues and expenditures for 2011 for the town and village using the annual financial reports as required by Article 3, Section 30 of the General Municipal Law. These reports are certified and submitted by the Chief Fiscal Officer of each municipality to the Controller of the State of New York at the end of each fiscal year. The complete 2011 annual financial reports of the village and the town are available for review on each municipal's website. The committee agreed to use actual revenues and expenditures for 2011 as was determined. Adopted budgets by either government were not necessarily indicative of a true picture of the revenues and expenditures, and because the fiscal years are different, the village budget year is June through May, while the town's is January through December. Expenditure and revenue figures for 2011 are the most current for both governments. Please note this report is based on the assumption of what costs would have been in 2011 if New Paltz had operated as one government. If community members had a question or disagreement on an expenditure line, the actual expenditure of village or town was used rather than err by projecting too great a savings. Our objective was to answer, would the taxpayers of both the town and the village see a difference in taxes paid if the two governments had been one government in 2011? Our analysis was done with no preconceived ideas that savings would result. It must be understood that the tax levied by both municipalities is based on adopted budgets and not actual expenditures. See supplementary attachment showing tax levies and tax rates for 2011, 12, and 13. If the amount collected is not fully spent, it may be placed in the fund balance, appropriated to reduce debt, or used to reduce the tax levy for the next fiscal year, or a combination of any of the three. The committee agreed that the $1 million citizen empowerment grant made available to communities forming conterminous governments, town, villages in June 2012, and available to New Paltz each year after referendum approval should not be used in the analysis. While the grant will result in taxpayer savings, 70% must be used in tax reduction. The committee determined that it would be treated as a potential add-on tax levy reduction. Having the Chief Fiscal Officers Susan Zivit and Nancy Branco and the heads of Highway and Buildings and Grounds, Blue Twilliger and Chris Marks, working with the committee, we projected what the revenues and expenditures would have been for a 2011 consolidated budget. Based upon careful analysis, the committee crafted a consolidated town-village budget that shows a decreased expenditures of $1,625,258. The detail is in the report. Please note, this consolidated budget presented reflects personnel adjustments already made in 2013 adopted by the town budget, and therefore there are minimal employees impacts, except for elected employees, of course. Other personnel reductions reflected in the merged budget would be handled by normal retirement or resignation. The consolidated budget also takes into account as aberrations one-time 2011 expenditures by either government. It should be noted that no services currently received by either town or village residents are proposed to be eliminated or reduced during the transitional period. In fact, some services will be enhanced. In addition, the tax analysis implications attached, the following are noted as important and significant, and the committee recommends they be implemented. The committee thinks consolidation of similar operations and implementation of better technology will eventually result in one government enlarging its critical skill base and technical base in many areas, thereby reducing manpower and at the same time permitting more flexibility in scheduling vacations, handling long-term illnesses, and resolving emergency situations. This should result in providing better community services to constituents and as a recommendation to the transitional government. These potential savings are not referenced or reflected in the consolidated budget. The consolidated government shall allow for the elimination of the use of the present town hall. The cost or revenues of any sale is not included in our calculations as it is a one-time event. Present town and village highway departments can be combined at the town garage. There's also a 2,400 square foot unconstructed pole barn out at the town highway department. And this will free up space in the present village garage for use as office space, presently located at town hall. There's also vacant space in the area the police formerly occupied. And there's a supplementary attachment for space needs and space available. The present areas in the town and village served by municipal water and sewer should become one water and one sewer benefit district, except for the present town sewer 6. Present districts were responsible for any outstanding debt. However, any funds available in the existing village accounts after merging can be used for the debt in the village. The increased cost of present village use is estimated to be minimal, and there's attachment to identify that. It's difficult to project whether there will be a cost increase as the new village water sewer rates effective 11/13 are payable in the March 1st, 2013, but the report was made based upon the rates in 2012. Residents on town water and sewer will see a significant rate reduction in their quarterly bills, as they will pay the same rate as village consumers of water and sewer, and that's also in the analysis. The committee supports the recommendation of the Committee on Infrastructure, including the recommendation that Town Sewer 6 be considered for hookup to the rest of the system after consolidation. This will require feasibility, cost, and impact studies on existing capability. Funding for the library will not be impacted. All emergency services, police, fire, and rescue squad, will now work and budget with one government to provide the funding for the needed and important services they provide. Based on input from the New York State Secretary of State's office, the following will incur, but we must again verify that. All buildings, furnishings, and equipment will be owned by the new government entity. There will be no consideration of trying to assess value or the amount, if any, owed to each entity. However, unexpended money is handled differently. Any unexpended money remaining in either the town or the village is used to pay off debt obligations. The village just includes water and sewer debt. If there are other funds left, they should be returned in cash to the source from which the money was raised. And this should take place within 1 or 2 years after consolidation. Any remaining indebtedness remains the responsibility of the municipality or special district creating that debt. The committee recognized that taxpayers of both municipalities are concerned with the cost of some services being paid by all taxpayers, but not equally benefiting everyone. While reassessment was not in the committee's scope of work, we, after considered discussion of equity and taxation, recommended to the transitional government that it act to have a full reassessment done and properties classified as residential, commercial, rentals, not-for-profits, not-for-profit income producing, etc. for taxing purposes. After completion of the assessment, the government should make a decision whether Article 19 of the New York State Property Tax Law or a business incentive district could or should be implemented to allow for differential tax rates depending on the benefit of service. In keeping with the recommendation in G, which was the former one, the committee sought to address a major concern expressed by many taxpayers, the cost of policing in our community, which is almost 1/3 of the joint budget. Is there an inequity of benefit to many of the taxpayers for police services? We found out that there are 39 policing zones measured by the police department, and based on the information of calls by the New Paltz Police Department, and those charts are attached, Zone 6 demands significantly more police service. As a result, the committee recommends a benefit assessment district created for the village Zone 6, which encompasses the center core of the village. The committee also proposes an annual police zone activity review to be completed and adjustments made as to services provided and percentage of activity versus benefit. The charts attached to this report identify those savings for both the village and town outside the village residents. The analysis done on actual expenditures, not budgeted appropriations on which the tax levy revenue is based. Budgeted items such as contingencies and fund balances are not included. The committee, to the best of our ability, adjusted the different fiscal years to the town and village governments. And finally, based upon our findings, the committee recommends that a referendum on a consolidated community with one government be submitted to the voters in 2013. As chair, I want to express thanks to all members of the committee for their dedication, cooperation in addressing these issues. Special thanks to all the committee, and especially Ross Pollock, Sally Rhodes, and Nancy Branco, who volunteered countless hours in developing the combined spreadsheets for the committee to review that you see up here. And that was a lot of work. Also, thanks to Blue Twilliger and Chris Marks, who together with committee members analyzed the costs in their areas and recommended the method for the DPW and buildings and grounds savings presented. And a sincere thank you to Carol Connolly for her assistance to the committee, and to Kathy Bunkin for handling the scheduling of location and television of our meetings. Members of the committee were myself, Nancy Branco, Hiram Margolis, Ross Pollock, Sally Rose, and Susan Zimmer. And before I finish my report, and Ross shows the chart of the impact on the tax rates, I'd like to say a couple personal comments. And that is, as I noted, I've had 18 meetings in the last 6 months with Susan Zimmer on my right hand and Sally Rhodes on the left, okay? It's been a challenge.
Dave,
And,
you gotta keep him on one side.
What?
You gotta keep him on one side of you.
Well, I didn't do that. And I should have talked to it. That was a problem. But on a more serious thing, since I moved to this community when I was 3 and for almost 80 years, I listened to and read, and in some cases experienced, and been part of those confrontations between the town and the village. That one government would eliminate. I also have had to see so many friends and neighbors and people that I've associated with say, I can't stand the taxes in the town of New Paltz. I'm moving. So they moved to Gardner, or they moved to Esopus, they moved to Lloyd, even though they may still work in New Paltz and have interest here. But even sadder is those friends and neighbors such as Walt Paradise, who grew up in this community, his family grew up in this community, who 2 years ago, and I'm using Walt, but there were many others, I said, I can't live here any longer. I can't stand the taxes. And so he sold his very beautiful house that they made, and he moved to North Carolina. Now I want to tell, and I'm really talking, not to you this time, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the people out here, I'm talking to the people on the camera. And I'm talking to all the citizens here in New Paltz. We're going to get a vote, I suspect. And it's your opportunity to do something about taxes. You personally to do something about taxes. And if you fail to do that, if you turn down this opportunity, don't ever complain to anybody about the taxes in the town or village of New Paltz. And Ross Pollock's going to put a chart up here to kind of summarize for the benefit of everybody and for our listening and seeing audience of what the impact is. And we looked at this impact, number one, without any aid, with the benefit district that we talked about, which is the center of the community, the center of the village, and also.
Excuse me, Dave, do you need light to be able to see your papers, or can we shut them all off? So
No, I don't need the paper.
Okay.
I can read it right off of there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
and can you see that for the camera? That's the question with the camera together, because I think it's very, very important.
Check the monitor behind them. I think you can see
What?
it pretty clearly.
What's that? Because it comes up pretty strong.
Hey, Mike, how's the
And-
screen look? Is that showing up?
And
on the screen?
also, we took into consideration that what would be the tax rates and what would be the impact if in fact, we also got the $1 million from the state and and also the benefit district in the community, and what that impact would be. How we coming, Ross?
Luck would have it, it's taking a while.
The luck would have it, it's taking a while, okay.
You're gonna have to dance, Dave.
It's thinking.
Well, oh gee, it went up pretty fast initially.
Did,
Okay. All right.
typical.
Just asking Maria, there's a way out of my way.
Well, I'm going to talk, because I got the sheets here at the same time, and we'll show these sheets up there. If in fact, no changes for a special assessment district, no extra $1 million from the state, the savings to the village taxpayer would be 39.59%. To the town residents, it would be 12.35%. If I move completely to what would it be if we got the $1 million in the benefit district, town savings would be off the, what would have been assumed as rate for 2011, 23.43%, almost a quarter of their tax rate. And for the village, 43.83%. Now, the benefit assessment district in the town, in the middle of the village, would show a very small percentage difference, okay? 0.6%. But my rationalization of this and feeling is this, that area, those people in that area, number one, cause a tremendous amount, 25 to 30% of the cost of the police, at least number of calls. And that does not take into consideration how many officers are on a call, etc. If you look at the detail, you notice that most of those calls are significant calls requiring more than one officer. Those operations, those businesses in that area have chosen to live there, being aware of today's present tax rate, and feel they are successful with that present tax rate. And therefore, I feel that the minimal amount of reduction. Now, not working.
Dave, we have
We have the big
the big
blow
spray,
up.
the blow up. So let's use the blow up shot, which is why we.
Okay. Okay.
You're in
let's-
your car.
Oh, we have a backup.
We'll be right back. No, you know, you took them down to
Yeah,
my
you
car.
took them down your car.
We'll be,
This worked perfectly before the meeting.
give 30 seconds.
Do you just not have the document?
That's why we should have just.
So the documents are there, just-
The documents, everybody has the documents.
Oh, hey.
There we go.
Okay.
Oh, no signal.
Hopefully
That's what
hopefully
we had.
consolidation
We had
could
that
go as
problem.
smooth as this presentation.
No, we had that
I
problem.
think we should say this land is your land, this land
I
is
mean,
my land.
these receipts have, I don't know why.
It says no signal.
I know, I was thinking we should stick our key fingers on.
She's gonna go get the chart.
was there and sang it.
I don't think Mike, he came in.
Mike,
That's what I was thinking.
I thought we had the sheet. No, Sally, don't we have them out here? Aren't they here?
Susan's getting the big charts.
They're right here, aren't they?
Those are village charts.
this is well prepared.
Actually better prepared than most of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need to.
Just be honest. You get in trouble all the time.
No singing. This is not supposed to be fun. You're smiling? You're smiling too much?
No smiling in politics.
No smiling. You know the rules.
You always sing something more depressing, Brian.
Oh my god. What was the budget on, what was the budget on laminated product?
$120 that came out of the town board line.
Oh my goodness gracious.
He was sounding pretty good.
Need them for presentations.
We could argue about the lyrics.
Jason, you're paying half the bill on laminated products.
On government, we spend money all the time. It wasn't lug nuts for $27 a piece. No, what was it? The military did?
The hammer.
No, toilet seat?
Yeah, toilet seats, $400,000.
People to see. Ross, just bring it here.
Only sky or something like that.
Is it this one or that one?
Only sky.
This one?
This is for the benefit of
Guys. No, Ross, bring that over here.
Yeah, this is the basic one that talks about that. In your documentation, it indicates that the town village rate would have been 10.339 based upon the expenditures and the income
Is this
in the village.
You have everything.
And
Okay,
I
well-
want to point out
You have the whole package. And all the package.
that this does not include
Jeff.
debt, but there's a minimal amount of debt, but it does not include debt. And it doesn't include contingencies, and it doesn't include, is a third thing here, contingencies and,
Fund balance contingencies.
and debt service and fund balances, that would be used in normally making a budget. We cut that all out of the computations. And the town rate would have been 75843. In a Uniford, 58074. And this would be, therefore, the difference, which is a 43.83% reduction, and or 63.63 for the special district, and for the town, 23.43. And this is the other two scenarios and situations, so you can see that this is what, without any of the rest of the stuff we talked about, this would be the basic reduction of the percent reduction for the town or for the village. I'm sure that as all of you look through this in detail, you have a question. And as I understand, we have a meeting next Tuesday evening at 7:30 here,
Yep.
right here, okay, where we will, the committee will accept, we'll get your questions back, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. I want you to really understand that this committee has really spent a tremendous amount of work and effort, and really, having worked with town budgets for the 6 years I was supervisor, and looking at this through this thing, and knowing how those operations go, the savings, we've probably underestimated them. We really probably have underestimated them. The only problem that I have that we can't control is I don't know what the state's going to do. I don't know what the state's going to do in relationship to what the rates are going to be for retirement. I mean, they've gone up significantly every year. We took the rates of what the costs were in 2011. We don't know where the medical costs are going to change. As they go up or down, I don't know. But, and of course, when you work with new contracts with your employees, that has impacts too. But setting that aside, okay, which would happen with or without merging, okay, those things will still happen. And therefore, we're trying to compare apples to apples. and that's what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Dave. I want to sincerely thank the people that I worked on with the committee. As I said in the beginning, I haven't worked so hard or fought so much or had such a good time. But I do want you to know that this committee was made up of people who are very experienced and have had many years in budgeting. Okay? I have, Dave has, the supervisor has, Ira Margolis is a trained forensic auditor, and of course, our very own Ross, who has had many, many years working on budgets and making major contributions to this community. As Dave said, next Tuesday evening, all committee reports will be discussed by the board, and we have accepted, but we have not approved, and I'm going to, on behalf of my committee, move to accept, at least from the village, the financial report, and thank you.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And unopposed?
On behalf of the town,
I'll move it on behalf of the town to accept it.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed. I
Okay.
just
Okay.
handed this
We're
just now.
we're just accepting the reports
We're
like we
not
did. It
adopting.
doesn't matter.
I'm just I'm
That's
allowed
okay.
to simply state why I'm not accepting. I'm just accepting. It was just handed to me now, so I
Okay.
had no idea what
That's
I'm
fine.
looking
All in
at.
favor? Okay, 4-1 against. Thanks.
Sally? What did you have,
What else would
I didn't know if there was anything else you wanted to go through.
No, I just wanted to thank all of this community. I want to say it is a privilege to have lived in this community as long as I have, to have done as much as I could on behalf of the community. And I hope I'm still able to continue to help us help ourselves, because I, for one, believe there is not a separate village, there is not a separate town. This is the community of New Paltz, and I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of us. Thank you.
And the only last thing I want to say is there's a lot of information. We didn't spare anything. We tried to, give as much information as possible. When you look at this, you'll see the thought process on the side. We actually illustrate what our thought process is and how we came out with the numbers. A lot of the worksheet stuff we worked with is in back there. It's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of information. So it's going to take everybody a little bit of time to look through and to digest. But just speaking on behalf of myself, it was an incredible amount of work. And very strong personalities. And I will say I ultimately gave to Sally every time. Because even I couldn't fight Sally Rhodes, and that's quite a statement. But honestly, it was a lot of work. Very, very bright people who really cared. Honest conversations, honest discussions. If we didn't agree on something, then we just left numbers the way they were. We didn't just try to squeeze money out to have greater savings. If we couldn't agree on something, we just kept it, at the higher number and said we can't agree, and so therefore, let's just move on. Like Dave said, I really do believe that you will see more savings. I think there's a lot more that we could save. There's a lot of savings you don't see in here because we don't reflect the savings from buildings. We also, when most budgets are done and you levy your taxes, you use a fund balance to basically offset your taxes. The savings that Dave showed have no fund balances used whatsoever to offset. So in terms of the money, the taxes that were levied in 2011 in the town and village budget, we didn't use that in here. We didn't take that money and use it to do our tax savings in a way. So with fund balances down the road, you could see even potentially more savings. And so, again, I really do support the work that we've done. Did we have disagreements? Absolutely, but we talked it through and we go back and talk to other people. And I would personally like to thank Dave Lent for his leadership, his dedication, his steady hand, his ability to manage strong
The two of us.
personalities and stuff. And it was a real honor to work with you, Dave, and it was a real honor to work with the rest of the board.
I just have an observation, which is that when the efficiency committee came to the decision that a townwide village would be the best option for consolidation, That was after a lot of input from the public and a concern that the historic character of the village is something that all residents, whether they're in the town or the village, really feel part of. And our feeling was that if we became a town-wide village, that sense of identity would continue through the next form of government that we have. Also, as John Logan consistently pointed out at every one of our 18 study committees, the village form of government is a very effective form of government. It has a lot more latitude than town government, and I think that the big questions that we had at the end of that process, well, the big question, single, was what would be the tax benefit to the community at large. It was very clear there would be a significant tax benefit to village residents, but we didn't want to see that benefit transferred to the town residents. And I have a lot of homework to do to read this, but I think we all instinctively felt that there had to be community-wide savings. That wasn't the responsibility of the Fairweather consultant to prove for us. That is the responsibility of this finance committee. And I trust these numbers. If you can get Sally and Susan to sign off on them, they must be right.
Well, there are other people in the committee that also have.
Okay, that's true, noted. So I am very encouraged by this, because that was the kind of 800-pound gorilla in the back of all of our minds. There are just so many efficiencies that were clear from our process. But the big question was, is this going to save everybody some money? And it appears that it will. So I look forward to looking at these numbers
Well,
and
for
coming back.
example, for example, you mentioned that the present town hall will no longer be required. But none of this, in this savings, is not the cost of reductions of the cost of running town hall.
Mhm.
It's not in there.
So,
Just an example.
Because we did not have the time to do the
Yeah,
facility
because-
studies.
Because we realized there would be some additional cost to run to put that operation into the
Right.
village hall, so we just forgot it, the village garage, so we just forgot about it.
Ross, you want to say?
Yeah, I just could say many things. I'll just say two. One is that of all the various things that have been quoted in the papers over the last months and years, one of the ones that impressed me the most was quote from you, Kitty, that this should not, if this was a good idea, it shouldn't have to be sold, it would sell itself. And I'm hoping that this presentation tonight and our thinking about and reacting to this presentation will have that effect. The other is you talk about personalities and strong egos and all that. I can't think of anything I can point to in national, state, county, or local government that has inspired me more than the fact that a bunch of people from very different, forget the personalities, different political perspectives, conservatives, liberal, Democrat, Republican, could sit together as many times as we all did and try to take a public problem and work on it jointly. That impressed me, that inspired me. I hope you like the result. But the process encouraged me, because there's not a lot of that going on in politics as I see it.
Thank you, Ross.
And I think to echo also what Kitty is saying is, and one, Dave, you actually did propose in here, there actually is in your report, you do mention that there would be the closing of the town hall and using the current village garage as a, so you actually did, you just said you didn't discuss that.
And we didn't put it in the savings.
You didn't estimate the cost.
We did it, but we didn't talk about the cost.
The cost of it.
Okay?
So there would be a cost,
We
but-
didn't go back in there and found it,
Right.
and ask, well, how much was the?
And I agree with that
and-
completely.
And how much there,
You know,
and
and-
how much of the electricity, and so we
Right.
went to those costs. We did not do that.
And having just being handed this, and I agree, I am the first, to much to the chagrin of John Logan, I am a fiscal conservative and yet a Democrat, which he does not always appreciate, but I am the first to sign on board for saving money anyway. But if I just look right here, there's an anticipated $300,000 savings in police. I'm not gonna go in that
That was
discussion
an
now.
aberration,
No,
read
that's
the
okay, but
footnote.
we're not gonna talk about.
I don't wanna get into it, but
Not
I
tonight.
mean,
We'll do that on Wednesday.
just let alone, I think it's worth the discussion, and the reason being is, just alone, right now, we're paying about $550,000, over $500,000, just for our current retired police. Over the next 5 years, that number will probably go up by a good third, if not more. We're gonna be.
Whether or not.
I'm not asking for comment here, you got to speak, I got to speak now, Dave. So what I'm simply saying is, you have $300,000 in savings, but particularly, I'll just look at our police line, we have contractual reasons why I do need, much to what Kitty said. And the reason why I voted, I can't, I have too much here to look at and charts to look at and see where these numbers come of. I look at the very large gorillas in the room, you know, I will look at the 300,000, and the other one that really jumps out at me is I'm not sure how you're gonna see $500,000 in savings from the highway department unless we're going to be closing roads and laying off significant number of people. You have 14 miles, and Russ, you can shake your head, and I'm fine with that, but I just need to see the backup to that. And if it's there, I am the first on board to save every penny. But you have about 14 miles, and it's called centerline miles of roads in the village. You have about 40-some miles of centerline miles in the town. Unless people in this community come to me and say, I'm okay without you clearing my roads for 2 days, and people are not okay with their kids going to school for a few days because I can't clear the roads, we're not getting rid of trucks and we cannot reduce people.
Do not expect any reduction.
And I'm just simply, these again, I'm making the same generalities of what I'm provided with in front of me at this moment. So I'm more than happy to discuss this at greater length, but at first glance, I'm just looking at two pieces which represent a savings, a total savings, which again, if I can save our community 1.6 million, but I just, at first glance, I look at 5 and I look at 3, I look at $800,000, I look at 50% of it, I really have some very severe questions which are not answered in the 3-page report here. So I do want to see the backup of where we really truly feel that
it is.
this money.
Dave, just
And
please.
that's my only, that's my comment on it, and, you know, I hope they are there. And if we can realize some of these savings without consolidating the governments, let's do it this year. I am on board 100%. If all these savings take for us to consolidate our governments, I am 100% on board. I just need to know that these savings are truly there. And I just took two of the largest numbers I could pick off of this spreadsheet, of which there is not documentation to support those
Yes,
numbers.
there are, in the
We
bottom.
didn't come back.
Excuse me, folks,
But excuse me,
for better or
just
worse-
read it and come back. You don't have to yell over everyone.
For better or thank you, Brian, I appreciate
Yeah,
that,
thank
actually. For better or worse, I'm the one who's to chair this meeting.
Yeah.
And I know Jerry has been wanting to make a comment, and I know
Yeah,
before. I
so
just
I'm
don't-
done, no, that's all
Thank
I
you,
want to say,
Jeff.
yes.
And so before,
Yeah.
we've been doing so well at so many prior contentious meetings, I'd really just appreciate if we couldn't if we couldn't step on each other's sentences until we're done speaking. So if you wouldn't mind,
No, I'm done.
Susan,
Thank you.
Jeff made this comment, but Jerry has been patient, and then maybe
That's
Susan.
a perfectly appropriate comment, and I'm sure there is some backup documentation, and the reason for the presentation is to introduce the document and provoke the questions and get the questions answered. So that's not my main point, but I don't have any quarrel with anybody who has questions about detail, and I have confidence in the people who do the work. I just want to say that the eyes of the state are upon us, and the fundamental, and I know that from personal conversations over the last 2 days. I know that the state did not anticipate this alternative. I know that when we started undertaking, although there are models in New York, there are models like this in New York, when we undertook this process, one thing we wrote in the grant, I helped write the grant, was that we wanted to consider alternatives that were not necessarily advanced conventionally. And now I'm hearing high-level state officials say, gee, this might be an answer for New York more generally. And so that's not to say it's a reason for us to act in one way or another. It's a reason for us to take some pride in the local process that produced this, brought us to this moment, right? That we have generated an alternative to the conventional alternatives, not thought about and even funded initially by the state, but now funded. And we face a rational, I hope, informed debate, informed, rational, and sensible debate over a period of time about the alternatives. And we have a chance to demonstrate the issues, the options, the choices to New York generally in a very important moment in the history of the state. So, in that regard, I appreciate the acknowledgement, but I regard what I've done as very minimal, and I think the contributions of many people here today on various sides of this issue till now have been extraordinary. And I've lived here. Dave is starting to regard me as local because I've lived here 44 years. I wasn't born here. Except in maybe some previous life. And we've been talking about this issue for so when I came here, Sally was the League of Women Voters leader, and we were talking about this issue. Right at the point
We
of
won't say how many years ago.
Well, at least 44, Sally, but that makes you, 45. The thing is, Dave's point is fundamental. The motivations for doing this are various, not only financial, and I support it. But the fact that we'll come to a point of decision decisively as a community, face a choice that we've been talking about for decades without thoughtful consideration and evidence, have the evidence before us, make the choice, is something to be anticipated and to be proud of. And I just want to put that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I don't know who was first. I heard a couple of people.
Okay.
I was going to move to
Jumping forward.
adjourn.
Well, I just want to
Sally.
I just
Please.
wanted to, the only thing I just wanted to say, and it's not a problem with people having questions by any means, I just want to know, just make very clear, the ground rules that were established at the last Town Village meeting, when planning was presented, human resource was presented, infrastructure was presented, it had been determined that the board would not ask any questions that night, that we would then come tonight, do our presentation, no questions would be asked, and on the 15th, the two boards would come together and we would discuss every committee report and ask any questions that we want. So all I just wanted to say was the reason we're not engaging in answering questions was because that was the ground rules that were established at the last board meeting. And so Jeff could ask whatever question he wants, anybody could ask. I'm just saying we're not answering them because those were the ground rules that were established. So next week on the 15th, everybody will take this, and then hopefully Jason and I will work out how we will handle next week's meeting in terms of all the reports. We never talked about planning, we never talked about human resource, we never talked about infrastructure, and tonight's not the night to talk about finance. So everybody has to take their reports, look at them, and then next week we'll convene together on the 15th. That'll be a very, very important discussion of these two boards to start talking about all the work that everybody has done, to ask the questions that they have to ask, hopefully in a very respectful manner, because at the end of the day, you might not agree with what the reports say, but the people who worked really hard to deliver these reports deserve the respect of everybody at this table, everybody in this room, and everybody in this community. Because nobody brought forward anything that basically is self-serving to themselves or benefits them. It's what they believed was the best of their ability to deliver something that they thought worked on behalf of a consolidated community. So that's all I really wanted to say in terms of we're following the process. I'm very proud of the process. I'm proud of both boards in terms of us in 1 year getting to where we're getting. I don't know what the outcome will be, but I have to thank both boards for at least going through this very contentious, difficult, but important conversation for the community.
And I would like to just say to all of you who are here, but to the people on the camera, there will be a copy of this report at Elding Library for you to look at. There will be a copy with our clerk, Katie, if you want to come to Village Hall and you didn't have the opportunity to be here tonight. I am hoping we will be able to put the full report on our website so that you can conveniently sit at home and enjoy this instead of having to be here with us. But if in reading this you have any questions, there is no question that is a foolish question. If you have any question, please, at least in my case, feel free to call me. I would be happy to do the best I can to answer. I am sure Susan would.
I was gonna say, in my case, call Sally too.
And, you know, so, because, as Susan said, the purpose of this is to do and try to do the best for our community, and we need to do it together. So don't hesitate to call. Don't hesitate to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking. There's no question that is silly.
I have one.
Except, oh, never mind, I'm not telling. What?
How soon can we get our outreach committee together? And I'm just wondering if maybe that committee might benefit from having one member of this committee, one member of the planning committee,
That's
somebody so that when
Good idea.
they
That's a
do
good
their
idea.
presentations, there's somebody who can say, oh, I know how we got there.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And
One of
we
the things we
have
did
these, so we
was
can
we
travel.
also tried to do, you know, created these so if and when presentations happen, you have material to present and take around with you and stuff, so you could talk from it, from a presentation perspective, and we could do whatever needs to be done for anything else once, you know, you decide, you know.
And we
if
are
and how we move
available
forward.
to
Yeah,
talk
I
to
would-
anyone.
So, I mean, going back to the very beginning of this, Peter Fairweather spoke to the Rotary Club, and I think he spoke to the Pulse Club and things like that. So maybe with a little bit of preparation, our
I think
outreach committee could
Stuart and
do
Ariana
some
are
of
planning
that.
on that.
But,
Okay.
but what Kitty's suggesting is that the outreach committee
Right.
become a little larger and have a member from each one of our
Yeah.
committee on the outreach committee.
So-
It's a great idea.
What's your,
Why
maybe
do
that, what's your
sometimes?
time, what's your plan, I mean, you don't have to go into a lot of details, where are you guys taking this from here?
All right, well,
Either one.
at the last session when we had reports, we handed out a report and gave that report about the kinds of things that we're gonna do. But until we got to this point, we really couldn't do that, and that'll include things such as presentations, static presentations on the TV, as well as discussions on the TV about this report. We have this report, and now next week we'll have more full discussion, which will also be, and all of these are taped, and then we can have sessions about all the various aspects. We proposed a speakers bureau to go to the various community groups or anybody who wants to listen and speak about it. We'll have some kind of handouts, probably we'll have to wait till, well, we have these that hopefully we can put on a website shortly with the Fairweather report and some other documents. And then, after, however, the two boards decide to adjust these figures and it comes of a discussion towards a plan, then that document will have hard copies that we'll try to get in various places, and if necessary, go door to door with them, to get it to the public, but we couldn't do that until we had something concrete. This is something concrete, we're gonna hear about that next week, and then we can push off and do those kind of, and as we said at the last time, you know, we had several people on the committee working on this, but we're more than happy to have as many people volunteer as possible to be a part of this public outreach, because it's so important. And we have had a few other people, volunteer to do it, but, you know, all the help we can get is the more things we can do. So I think, you know, that's kind of how we're gonna attack it. And the newspaper has agreed, once we get going, to have a, you know, weekly column update on anything that we wanna put in there about this process. And, so we had, if you saw that, 2 or 3 pages of ideas of things we wanna do. But the more people that are engaged and help us with it, the better job we can do of getting it out there. And that includes engaging us as to what other ideas you might have of how we do it, other than helping us with the ideas we have so far, so.
Yeah, like the Speakers Bureau is exactly what you said. Basically, a member of each of these committees will be able to speak to this, and we can film it. Maybe we can have some kind of call-in where people can call in and ask good questions. You know, we have the email address for people to send questions to, but hopefully there's somebody from each committee would like to be the person to answer for that committee. Because obviously we don't have all of the answers of the process and how things went on in each meeting. I think that would be really great. So if people would like to volunteer from each committee to do that, I think that would be really great.
I think it should be said again that we will have an email address that we'll publish where you can post your questions, and in a reasonable time after that, our committee will see that it gets to the person or persons who did that part of the study and have the answers, and we'll answer those people by email.
We do already
It's
have.
NP consolidation questions at Gmail.
Right.
At gmail.com.
So we expect they'll come fast and furious now, so we'll be looking.
No one answered.
Well, everyone's getting restless. Any
My dad
last?
sent a message 2 weeks ago, no
Yeah,
one answered.
I
From the
just-
finance committee not have a
2
chance?
weeks ago, he
Everyone's,
sent the question, no one's answered in 2 weeks.
we're good, right?
I just
John
want
Logan.
to mention one thing. Kitty Brown and I both served on the efficiency committee. And Kitty, of course, is on the town board. And when she recommended what she said earlier about becoming a village form of government, because it is a better form of government, I think we need to commend her for her recognition of that concept. And I certainly did enjoy working with you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you, right back at you.
All right, if there's nothing else with that, then I
I'll
move.
move to
You wanna go ahead? Move to adjourn? Who did? One of us did and one of us
Charlie
seconded.
did.
There we go, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
Okay, so the town has to do some quick business. Do you wanna,
I have the
I don't know if you guys wanna leave or if you just wanna wait for 2 seconds.
I apologize, the town just has some very quick business, we have to.
What can I do?
Yeah.
What is yours?
Extra material.
Okay, so give it all. Sally, here's all the envelopes.
I know someone had sent a, you might wanna look.
Yeah, you should do it like.
My dad sent a question 2 weeks ago, and hasn't gotten a response.
I gained so much weight when my father died that I can't,
Kevin, I'm hoping, if not you, I'm hoping that Bill Wallens, that email I sent out that quoted like section 73. I was hoping you looked it up because when I go and read those, okay, because when I go look those things up, I cannot read them. Yeah. Okay. That came from a state worker, so. And he was he's very, very nice. He wasn't trying to, he had no emotions either way.
Motion to adjourn?
I just wanna make sure there's nothing else that we need to do tonight, just wanna make sure. Okay, no, I'm good, no, I'm good as long as everyone else is good, as one.
All
Second.
in favor?
Aye,
Motion so carried.
Home by 9 o'clock?
perfect.
That's because nobody was really allowed to talk, that's why. Next week we'll be
This is very impressive.
Way too much for me to go through without my head exploding.
So I don't need anything else except what was in this packet. All that stuff out there is all here.
You guys had a, you had a collated packet, and you've got bigger, and you've got big copies of this stuff. That was uncollated, because we didn't have time. There's 50 copies out there. I'm just making these up, making this up for the board, making 63 copies.
But does it
every single
explain,
side.
like, one thing is that, like, it shows the police budget is 2.5 million, but the police budget isn't 2.5